can see, they obviously are not able to operate the drive-through yet. Hi friends and adventurers, Heather from Heather's Hikes and Adventures, future editing Heather from Heather's Hikes and Adventures. And unless you've been living under a rock, you have probably heard of record-breaking Hurricane Milton. You wouldn't think a Hurricane Milton would be as ferocious as it ended up being. No shades of the name Milton, but I thought I would take advantage of the fact that since I had to do all of the prep, since we were going to be hunkering down here, and since we were going to be getting ourselves and the house ready for the storm to hit, I thought it might be a kind of interesting video to bring you guys along with me so that you can see what it really truly is like living in Florida during hurricane season when a monster hurricane is on the way. Now, I do want to preface this. I was not one of the people on the coast. I'm about as inland in the state as you can get. And I'm also in a higher area that is not typical to flooding in my specific neighborhood. So I just wanted to get that out of the way real quick. But basically, I'm just going to take you on a very condensed week with me, kind of going through all the steps that I did to get ready for the hurricane, kind of what it was like going through the hurricane. Now, the worst of it did come through in the middle of the night, and it was pitch dark, and I was not about to take my happy butt outside to try and get film of it and then get, whacked by a tree. So I did not get much of the overnight experience. Just know that it was very loud, very disconcerting, and I was hearing things slam into my house all night. But aside from that, you'll kind of see the whole process of what it's like here, what we do to prepare as Floridians in hurricane season when a hurricane is coming. I do want to talk about something first, though, just real quick, because it's something that I've seen, that I've gotten a ton of questions about, that I see being asked of everybody, and a lot of judgment also being thrown around, like, this is what you get when you choose to live in Florida. You know you're living in a hurricane state. If you don't like it, you should just leave. Why don't you just move out of Florida? You know a hurricane's coming. You have plenty of time to evacuate. Just get out of there. And just kind of, there seems to be a general consensus that when a major hurricane is coming to Florida, people outside of Florida seem to think that it's feasible for the entire population of the entire state to evacuate. And unfortunately, that is just simply not true. People have to work, people have to go to school. A lot of times they don't know specifically enough where the hurricane's worst part is going to be hitting. So you can't exactly go by that when it comes to school closures, business closures. So a lot of times you only have a couple of days to prepare. And by that time, the highways are clogged. I'm sure you guys have seen the footage from 75 and 95 of people trying to leave early, days before the hurricane was going to hit. I mean, even on, Sunday and Monday when people were leaving, it was like a parking lot where they were just at a standstill. And then you kind of get this ripple effect. All the gas stations near the highway start running out of gas. And then you can't get further on the highway, so you're stranded. And then it just kind of is a ripple effect. So the important things to consider when deciding whether or not to evacuate are, 1, are you in an evacuation area? There's different levels, A through E. So if you're in evacuation zone A, you know that you're going to be the first people that have to evacuate when it's time. So it's very important to know your evacuation zone. It's very important to know if you're in a flood zone or an area that is more low-lying that tends to flood very quickly. And then there are elderly people who may not have the resources or the ability to make the preparations necessary to make their home safe and may need to go to a shelter. There are people that live in mobile and manufactured homes, campers, Unfortunately, there's a ton of people in the state of Florida that have no choice but to live in their vehicles. And of course, there are some that are doing so by choice. But there are a lot of vulnerable people in the state of Florida when it comes to storms, and they take priority. Also, special medical needs patients or people, like, for instance, if you need oxygen 24/7, you cannot risk being without power. So those are the people that get precedent when it comes to evacuation. Those are the people that get evacuated first. And those are the people that I personally and other people in my position don't want to take resources from. If I end up getting the last tank of gas in my car so that I can evacuate when I may be better off just hunkering down, what if the next person behind me then doesn't have gas and they were in a mobile home and in a low-lying area and now they're stuck? So it's really important that the resources go to those who need them the most first. Another misconception with evacuation is people automatically assume, oh, you have to evacuate where you're at in Florida. That means leaving the state. Get to Georgia, get to Alabama, head up to the Carolinas, Louisiana, get out of there. The fact of the matter is, even people that are ordered to evacuate, the majority of them only need to evacuate tens, maybe 50 miles. It's not like they're needing to evacuate hundreds of miles to another state. They just need to get to a safer area, which means higher and drier and more reinforced. If I had a wood frame home, I would be a little more nervous, but my home construction is concrete block, so it's a sturdy home. I have storm windows, so I am pretty safe as far as that goes. And since my area is not prone to flooding, although lower down in the neighborhood does have some issues, and the neighborhood right across the street from me has some major issues because they're close to the Little Wekiva River. But in general, you really only need to evacuate 20, 30 miles, to get to a shelter or a higher space that's safer. So I do think that those are kind of a lot of misconceptions floating around out there. And so that's why you'll read a lot of, well, it's no surprise you live in Florida during hurricane season. Of course you're going to have hurricanes, deal with it or get out. And it's not like the majority of people in Florida, they may not have chosen to relocate to Florida. They may have been born here. They may have been living here for generations and generations and not have the means to leave or to evacuate. It costs a lot of money to fill up your tank multiple times and pay for lodging or hotels if you're not going to be at a shelter and if you are going to evacuate further. Add to that the cost of food, taking extra time off of jobs and school if they open back up before you're back. It's really not affordable or feasible for many people. So that's why it's only the ones that are going to be most impacted and mostly in danger that it's important to leave. So I'm going to kind of wrap this up because I just really do want to take you along on my experience, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys perspective before I dive into my week and kind of clear up all the questions that may get asked ahead of time about, well, why didn't you just evacuate? Or why is anybody even in the state? Nobody would be having to deal with this if they had left. So I hope that kind of answers that. And without further ado, let's get into my experience with Hurricane Milton. Currently 3 days before landfall with Hurricane Milton, or at least he will be Hurricane Milton later today. It is projected to rain like this pretty much non-stop until after the hurricane comes through, and this weather is not even from the hurricane. It is from a previous lingering system that's just been hanging around. So unfortunately, we're going to be pretty saturated by the time the new storm makes landfall. I'm a little nervous. We'll see what happens tomorrow. Currently watching the weather report here while I get ready to go grocery shopping and top off my tank. All right, luckily no line at the gas station yet, but all the pumps are definitely full, so I think we were smart to go now. 4 hours since my last check-in. Well, my last weather check-in. You can see we're still getting some drizzles and rain, but that's gonna intensify throughout the day. I would like to note, though, that Hurricane Milton was supposed to be initially a Cat 2 by sometime the end of today, and it became a Cat 2 at 5 a.m. this morning, way ahead of schedule. And less than 2 hours later at 7 a.m., the National Hurricane Center had to just come out with a special advisory notifying us that it's actually already a Category 3, less than 2 hours after becoming a 2. Doesn't bode well. We've got some predictions saying it could get all the way up to Cat 5 before it hopefully and potentially weakens a bit before hitting us. But at this point, pretty much all of Florida is going to be, except for the very top and west part of the Panhandle, is going to be pretty much experiencing hurricane conditions instead of tropical storm force. So a little nervous. Some of my fence planks were lost in Helene, so I don't know how much of the fence is going to survive Milton. But I'll check in later when we have more updates. Okay, don't anybody judge me. As you all know, I haven't been able to camp in well over a month now. So I have my staging area is more like a hurricane disaster area at the moment. I have all my power stations, camp gear, all of that. Today I am going to be charging up all of my big power stations. I am also going to be organizing this chaos and getting it put up in its places. My dad just brought over some kitchen cabinets or some garage cabinets that they no longer needed, so I have some organization ready to go in my garage. I'm going to move as much of the outdoor stuff outdoors as I can. I am going to keep at least one fridge plugged in here in case I need to immediately transfer some stuff. And then I do have my backup fridge that I can always bring in and plug up to a power station if I need even more so that we don't lose our cold food. So really today is just about organizing, charging, and making sure that I've already brought everything in from outside that could become a projectile. Oh, this doesn't seem like a huge task ordinarily, but since I've got about 5 or 10 minutes before I need a break each time I do physical stuff right now, it's probably going to take me most of the day. And I'm also going to try to get all the laundry done, spotless kitchen, no dishes, everything organized and ready to go. Because I do think there's no way I'm going to get out of this without losing power for at least a couple days. Hopefully not. Because I have my helper right here. Are you going to help? Maybe she's just guarding the fridge right now. Give you an idea of what I'm working with now. We've got quite a bit of storage up here. And then I have shelves down there so I can adjust the height once I figure out what I want to put in this side. And then down here is where I've got my spare water, a compressor that I don't need right there. And then I also have behind my camp cot, have this whole section of storage now too. Those are some wood floors that we're going to be putting in my boys' room when we rip up the carpet, but we haven't gotten to that part yet of the house. So this is going to be the big project today. I'm going to see how much I can get organized and moved out here in case we need to use my staging room as a hurricane shelter. So obviously all of the things like this, I am going to fill up my gallon jugs of water today and get those in my fridge for now. But this kind of stuff, like my typical garage storage that I haven't downsized, all that's going to move into here. And then hopefully a lot of stuff from inside. So checking in again, it's the same day, only 9:30 in the morning now, and we are officially at a Category 4 hurricane with 150-mile-an-hour winds. For some reference or context, it becomes the strongest Category 5 once it hits 158 miles an hour. So yeah, we're going from it being a category 2 by the end of today to most likely a category 5, the strongest storm in the Gulf ever. At least since Michael in 2018, and of course that's not taking into account landfall or anything, but yeah, I'm moving from nervous to more anxious, uncomfortable, getting a little scared, because even with me being as inland as I am, we're definitely going to be getting hurricane force winds here and gusts over 100 miles an hour at least at the moment, it looks like. So fingers and toes crossed, the roof and the walls remain intact, no breaches, and that the power outages don't last too long in the area, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of downed lines. My main goal for today is to just get that emptied out and then tipped over flat so that I can push it against the garage door there. Hopefully that'll be a little bit of a buffer. See, we're all trying to get our trash taken away so that we have as little debris as possible. All right, we're currently up to 180 mile an hour wind, category 5. This is going to be my temporary chandelier if we lose power in the dining room. So I'm going to go hang that from the chandelier, and it'll be ready to go just in case we need a light. All right, good morning. It is now Tuesday morning. The kids have early dismissal today, so they'll be home by 1, and then school is closed tomorrow, Thursday, and possibly Friday. I am waving and not worrying about the neighbors thinking I'm crazy because we've got this window boarded up. My dad came over last night and boarded that, so this is going to be our panic room if we need one. I did move the computer over there. I've got my backup fridge ready to go in case I need to save any food from the big fridge. Right now, all that's in that fridge is a couple gallons of water and some protein shakes. So obviously we can clear room for more food there if we need to. As you can tell, it's not perfect, but I have definitely cleared out the space quite a bit since the disaster zone it was yesterday. I've got my extra lighting, headlamp, flashlight, lanterns, all of my power stations are, oh, that reminds me, I gotta unplug this one and switch it to that. Almost all of my power stations are charged. Extra battery bank, all of my other camp stuff is just stashed there that I haven't figured out how I want to organize it yet. I have my rolled up twin mattress here, so that can be a bed for somebody under some or over some puzzle mats. I've got my sleeping pad that I'll use, and then I have my full-size trifold that the boys can use with lots of extra bedding and stuff ready. So I'm making progress. I just have to finish clearing out. As you can see, Chloe here is supervising. I've got my solar panel ready to go in case the sun comes out after the storm and we need to recharge the power banks. All right, outside update. I've got round 2 of the trash and yard debris. We did flip over that and push it up against the garage door, so hopefully that'll be good enough. It's really heavy, so I think it'll be okay and it won't fit anywhere else. You can see here we've got our chandelier rigged up and ready to go. Yes, I'm a basic live, laugh, love person. All of our hurricane provisions and coffee stuff. And we've got the porch prep finished. We just stacked up all the chairs against the corner. Don't miss the spot we missed of pressure washing. And then we've got everything else just kind of pushed up against. I am not much expecting my fence to make it, if I didn't already say that yesterday. Hope I'm wrong. But as long as the roof and all of my walls stay intact with no breaches and windows, I'll consider that a win. Speaking of wind, we did temporarily drop back down to a Cat 4 overnight when Milton started replacing his eye wall. So we're right now about 2 or 3 miles an hour shy of getting that Cat 5 status again. Probably by 8 a.m. update, maybe 11 a.m. update, we'll be back to a Cat 5. They're still saying it's supposed to weaken to like a 4 or a strong 3 before it hits. But my area, which is like as inland as you can be and high as you can be flood zone wise, is expecting almost a foot of rain and definitely hurricane strength winds over 100 miles an hour. So keep your fingers crossed for us. Let's see what today brings. It's not supposed to start getting real nasty until tomorrow morning, maybe early hour, like overnight, but I think starting tomorrow it's just going to get progressively worse. So nothing else major happens today. I will check in with you then. All right, good morning, friends. It is Wednesday morning, H Day, aka Hurricane Day. As you can see, the rain has already started up. It's only going to get worse from here. Looks like actually quite a few of my neighbors ended up boarding up the windows, which I was surprised about. But we do have the one room. I'll show you our little bunker set up in a minute inside. We do have one room with boarded up and set up that we can hunker down and camp out in. So that's the plan for today. I think around 2 o'clock this afternoon is when the winds are really going to kick up, and then Milton is supposed to make landfall now as a Category 4, which is what I suspected all along. Sometime after midnight. We're still not sure if it's going to, we think it's going to be south of Tampa Bay and north of Fort Myers. Not 100% sure yet. It looks like it's kind of narrowing in right around Sarasota, so either way, it's not going to be good for the coast. They're saying we're probably going to be getting Cat 2 strength hurricane conditions where I am today, or rather tonight into tomorrow morning. And then by midday tomorrow, it should start to clear up a little. So it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, but I will keep you guys posted. And let me show you our little bunker room inside. All right, I've got my tri-fold mattress here that can pull out to a bed. I've got some entertainment stuff and games. I've got my big power station for my fridge there, in case we need to transfer anything from the big fridge, and all of my kitchen appliances that I camp and cook with there. Another bed set up here, and I have my other self-inflating sleeping mat. We've got a solar panel for once the storm is gone if I need to recharge anything. Got all of our fans charged. Power stations are all fully charged. Got my rechargeable lantern, flashlight, headlamp, battery banks, Wi-Fi signal booster, our little hurricane fort. Our kitties, Penny and Chloe, are taking a little bit of a break before they have to go back on duty.
If you're not out by then. Closing. I cannot stress enough to you that your options are quickly diminishing.
All right, so it's about noon now, and you can probably hear things have picked up a bit. Considering we have about another foot of rain to go. You can see it's a lot louder out here now. can see how fast the water's moving down the street. I feel really bad for my neighbors that live at the bottom of the hill. All right, it's about 7:30 p.m. right now. The west coast of Florida is just beginning to experience hurricane force winds. Of course, as soon as I came out here, the wind died down. But it is definitely picking up right now. They're telling us landfall's probably going to be, I think, around 10 or 11 p.m. now. Initially, it was going to be after midnight, but they think it's been bumped up a couple hours. Either way, we're a few hours from landfall, and then a few hours after that is when it'll get the worst for where I am. Probably between Cat 1 and Cat 2 still. My yard is definitely starting to get squishy. I have a lot of puddles in the front and the back. Definitely starting to collect in a few places, but I don't think, knock on wood, it'll be to the degree where it actually comes in, other than maybe up into the porch a little bit. So we'll see. Unfortunately, the worst of this is going to be overnight, so I won't really be able to show you a lot, but if it gets really loud and it starts whistling and doing that weird hurricane thing, I will definitely play that so you can hear what that sounds like, because I just realized I had completely blocked that sound from my memory, and then I heard it just now with one of the meteorologists in Tampa Bay, and I remember that sound. It is freaky, so check in with you soon. Alright, let's see what it looks like out here this morning. Well, the gutters stayed up, and most of the fence, it looks like we've just got still that panel there. Definitely have some cleanup to do. Looks like a couple more panels missing there. Oh, okay. Looks like a whole section of the fence has come down there. That's up against my powder puff. That could be why our internet is out. So we've got the entire section of the fence is kind of caved in and resting on my powder puff plant. But that looks like the biggest damage so far. Let's go look out front. Definitely some more cleanup. Okay, that's a mess, but not bad. I'm seeing lots of limbs in the yard. It looks like my tabebuia tree survived this little one here. Got lots more branches down. Looks like the pole stayed put. Just some big limbs. Should not be out here in flip-flops at the moment. see this street's pretty much just littered with branches. Not too bad. No big obstructions on our street. Looks like some very big branch. I'm wondering if that's maybe what took down the fence. There's a couple of real big branches there. Let's see the roof. Okay, that side looks good too. Not seeing a bunch of shingles or anything like that missing, so I'm not sure where the water was getting into the garage. Let me go look at that again. And blew it up on the windowsills. Oh, what a mess. I'm counting my blessings though. This is not nearly as bad as I was worried about. And then out here, this is really the only area of concern that I have found so far. Is that wet spot was not there, I don't think. And it looks like it was dripping a teeny bit of water during the worst of the rain, but it's not now. And you can see it's kind of, that's just the, you know, the drywall up there, but definitely have to get up there later and check that out. And of course, my girl Tara is safe and sound in the garage. I couldn't have her out in the elements. My angel parents are on their way over to help the kids and I clean up our disaster area. You can see there's big branches and litter from trees and leaves everywhere. So let's my poor plants. Yeah, I don't know where those came from, but I'm pretty sure that that branch and maybe that one are what kept banging against the house and scaring the crap out of me. Oh boy, what a mess. You can see that's where the fence gave up. So we'll get to work there, and then I'm going to try to drive around a little bit and see if there's anything worth showing you guys. Sarah wasn't in the driveway, or she would have ended up with a headache and some scritchy scratches. Everything was just blowing up against the garage and banging into it. Same thing here at the front door, so we'll have to sweep all that out. I'll probably do the sweeping and fine-tuning like that since I don't have very much physical ability or strength at the moment. But I'm going to try to pitch in as much as I can. All right, well, it's not perfect, but we made quite a bit of progress. And by we, I mean my kids and my parents mainly. As you can see, we collected quite a bit of debris from the front yard. Still have to work on the backyard, but that's going to be tomorrow. Oh, I just dropped my son off for weekend football practice, even though schools are closed until Tuesday. Looks like they haven't completely cleared out the parking lot yet, but overall, the floodwaters in my area have started to recede, and they've cleared the biggest trees. So let's see if there's any other mess out here while I wrap this up. Our retention pond in our neighborhood overflowed. So as you can see, we're coming up here on, this is kind of the outflow of the sewage here. So kind of hard to get into that plaza. Me being in a minivan with lower clearance, I'm not taking any chances with Tara. Looks like this area has gotten a little bit better too now from the overflow of the retention ponds on each side. Still don't think I'd want to go there to get gas or that hotel at the moment. But that's another thing that people don't really think about during these hurricanes afterwards and before, is everybody that does need to evacuate needs gas to do so, and the people that can't evacuate because they're essential workers, they need gas to still get around to their jobs. And I read that something like 70% of gas stations in Tampa right now are completely out of gas. Okay, let me show you my Chick-fil-A, guys. This is my Chick-fil-A parking lot. You can see they obviously are not able to operate the drive-through yet. You can see a good portion of the entire plaza and parking lot are completely flooded. I think I'm going to turn this way because I don't want to drive through that. You can see the biggest kind of threat to maneuvering right now is staying away from the water. You don't want to be in standing water where you can't tell how deep it is. My plan initially was to kind of do a little drive around yesterday, about 24 hours after the storm passed through. But to be honest, I started driving around and seeing some trees on people's houses, and it just started to feel kind of icky. Like, I don't want to videotape other people's trauma or other people's damages. I know my YouTube channel is super tiny and the chances of anybody seeing it around here are slim. But I would hate to be watching a video and then just suddenly see my house up there as a reminder. So I just decided to kind of not film my direct neighbors' areas and just kind of focus on what my personal experience was. I know by now a lot of you guys have seen the worst of the footage, you know, out of Pinellas, out of St. Lucie counties, where the tornadoes came through pretty much the whole West Coast. Poor Anna Maria Island is like... So, I mean, I know you guys have seen tons of devastation as it is. And again, I just kind of wanted to focus on my experience during a very dangerous, very significant storm and kind of what it's like for us smack dab in the middle inland of a state that gets a lot of hurricanes versus the coastal areas that you typically think of with the evacuations. They are expecting some of our rivers, primarily like the St. John's, Little Wekiva River, Rainbow River, those to continue rising over the next few days before they finally crest and start to recede. So unfortunately, I have a lot of friends and communities that are getting trapped in their neighborhoods or are dealing with rising floodwater that's already approaching their house and is anticipated to enter it in the next couple of days. So I'm just feeling very blessed, very fortunate, very lucky, and again, just kind of wanted to share my experience with you all so that you knew kind of what it's like to experience a major hurricane when you're not in an evacuation area. Hoping that I was able to give you a little more perspective too on exactly why it is that people typically don't evacuate, that it's not a statewide thing. It would be pretty much impossible, not feasible at all, to evacuate every single Floridian from the entire state. I don't even think it's possible. The roads would be a nightmare. Nobody would get anywhere. So it's really just a matter of priority, knowing your flood zones, knowing your evacuation zones, knowing, you know, whether you're prone to flooding, reinforcing what you have, and sometimes hunkering down is the safest option. Especially when we know that there are much more vulnerable people in much more dangerous areas that need those resources ahead of myself. So again, just wanted to give you some perspective, share my experience with you, and that'll about wrap it up.